for your energy and commitment. I've actually been fighting for decades for Larrakia, for what we call Gurambai, our language. It's a sacred area for Larrakia people. But I guess you all feel that energy when you come here. You know how important this place is. They call it a creek. A creek is like a runoff, but it's not a creek. It's a spring. It's coming up right over in the middle of the forest. It's like the womb area. All right? The fresh water come down from up top, meet up with the male energy, the salt water. It's a fertile area. It's a reproductive area. It's a sacred area. Got sacred story. But it's a spring and it's connected up to Larrakia. It's pure spring water. Very important. We had a lot of spring water all through our country, particularly in the city area, when we never lacked water. We could travel anywhere on the salt water, look for tucker all day, and there was always fresh water everywhere. Now they're all being diverted or cut up or covered up. But of all the, not only indigenous people in our country, but the Larrakia people, this is so important, this area. And it's being interfered, it's been getting interfered with now for the last few decades. My greatest fear is that they actually try to cement it like they cemented all the other springs all around the country. Right? But if you look at it in terms of survival, and this day and age where resources are struggling, and the more and more poison that's put out there by governments, the more precious it becomes. This is not runoff, this is pure spring water. The most valuable thing on earth for life, for all of us. Growing up in Darwin, all of us Darwin mob, this was our biggest playground here. And you know what we do? We go and fish all day down at Darwin. Anyone know Darwin? Say Darwin. Ma, diddly. Well, that's the old grandfather rock out there. If you go to the beach front and you look out, you'll see a big black rock there. That's Darwin. And all that area is Maja Maraba, with all his wives, 2 wives that go up and down that country. Big dreaming story. But we go there, we're saltwater people, Larrakia people. Go down there, look for tucker all day, feed all the family, and then what? Just like you did today, walk up. But not from here, from Footbridge, from One Tree. And One Tree is another sacred area. Right down there with a big footbridge to go over the other side, to Karoewa Beach. We got One Tree there. Another sacred area. When all the funeral business goes on, we gather there at One Tree, all right? It might go unnoticed because there's so many people in Darwin now, a lot of people around, but you will see people gathering around that area down there, what we call One Tree. And then from there, we walk up after a big fishing day, using all this area. Walk up until that water is pure fresh water then, because you get that first at the start, you see the salt water. Like the male energy, and then the male energy come up and meet with the female energy, right? And then you get up here and you got pure fresh water coming out there from that area up there, which is this one here, right? Any of you's been up to the forest area? In the forest where the spring comes up? Big area up there. It's got to be kept clean. No interference with that one. It is sacred. But for the pure sake that it's pure, clean water. So, I thank you so much. Now, our way, Larrakia way, we've all come here to the aviation club, and we get to do this and do that and do that and do that and don't do this and do that and do that. But you know what my way would be? We don't come here and sit down. We go there like Gurambai. Can you say Gurambai? Gurambai. That's our language for this place here, for this area. So what I would do is we go sit down there like Gurambai, and we all go in the water. Karoewa. That's that water. So, and go into the water And then that's the proper Larrakia welcome when Larrakia people. I'm saying any Larrakia in here? Only my children and my grandchildren at the moment, but if there was, I say, Kalambira Yalakan, all come in and gather. Come on, daughter. All come up and then we go into the water. But you know what would be the deadliest thing? Imagine, I got the shock of my life when I saw the police cars down there. But it's good, because it's main hire and necessary. But you know what? What about if we do that every Saturday? As well as getting good exercise, getting more crowd, and getting more attention. Because at the end of the day, for Darwin, this is the most beautiful place. This place, instead of being neglected and imposed on, it should be made out to be more for, what do you call it? Playground, play area. Yeah. Into a proper park. It's a bit neglected, eh? It's a bit neglected, and as a lot of our people say, not anyone, just people that go to the place all the time, they're a bit scared because it's a bit, you know, they don't know who's going to be down there and all that kind of business. But cherish this place as you cherish Howard Springs or Berry Springs or any other of them other places, which are all same, but this is right in the middle of town. You know, we never had to go, we didn't always have a car. I never went for a ride in a car till I was 16 years old. We never had a car. We had to walk about everywhere. And we certainly couldn't go a long way for Howard Springs, Berry Springs, everywhere like that. Here, this is where we went. Close up. All the Nightcliff, Rapid Creek, everywhere, all around. That's where all our kids, where we grew up, was here. This is our playground. And I love that to stay for future generations. Pure, clean water, you don't have to worry about nothing. Right? And what's wrong with, when their big thing is, oh, it floods, it floods, it floods. Well, you know, Mother Nature, we can work around these things. But we can't work around poisons and all kind of overflow, runoff. I don't know what they're doing. I haven't even seen the plans yet, but whatever the plans they have. But things like flooding occasionally, we used to love it. We still do love it. And you can work around it. All right, that's a bit of a, what do you call it? Loaded welcome. That's a bit of a loaded welcome. But it's true. Nothing wrong. And I want to be able to see my grandchildren still going down there to play, you know, when they're 16 and 17, and look after this place. But thank you, everybody. See you next Saturday, same time, same place.
Mr. Andrew Lex Arthur.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. It's wonderful. Thank you, June, for that fantastic introduction to our local creek. Why are we here? Why are we here? Darwinians have made it clear that Rapid Creek is sacred ground. And the only way to protect a creek is to protect the catchment. Now, the federal government have done it with Kakadu, and what a magnificent park. And the NT government have done it up at Darwin River with that dam. That catchment is protected. You can't build anything in there. Why can't they do it to our creek in town? Huh? So for 30 years, governments of both sides, NT governments from both sides, have secretly, slowly and steadily allowed development at the airport and now in the upper catchment. We're talking at Amy Johnson Drive and Bolter Road. You see all that new development? That's the headwaters of the creek. That's the top of Rapid Creek. It feeds Marara Swamp, and all that water comes through into the creek. And they're developing that area right now. And as we've shown, as our little Facebook page has shown, and as you have shown by rocking up here today, the people don't want that. They want this Rapid Creek for future generations. So if we're going to protect it for future generations, we have to protect the catchment. Right? I want to be very clear. There's so many people who will throw different things. Oh, it's already a floodplain, there should be development, blah, blah, blah. But to protect the creek, we need to protect the catchment. And the governments of both sides, federal and NT, have not done that. In 1991, over 3,000 signatures were collected in 1991 about the development proposed for the airport. Those submissions were ignored, along with the submissions from countless other groups. Some represented here, Plan NT, Environment Centre, the Rapper Creek Land Care Mob, who aren't here today. Many different organisations have asked for the catchment to be protected, and they've been ignored. But I guess the process of consultation, that's it, consultation, the process makes us think that we do have a say. Then we had 2001 Carlos, and we had the massive floods. 100 houses went under. It's never happened before. People say it's on a flood zone, but this has never happened before. It's quite obvious. More water, us Darwinians know, the airport developments, more water is going into the creek quicker. But last December, the Environmental Defenders Office, on behalf of the Landcare Group, put in a Freedom of Information application to the NT government for the reports that they've kept secret from us the people for 30 years. This triggered the NT government to actually release a bulk of reports just before Christmas. And they all said development of the middle and upper catchment will directly result in faster high and more frequent flooding. Duh! We know this. So we've got a creek in danger. And we can point the finger at two people here. The federal government have leased the airport to IFM investors. Remember them, IFM investors. They own the creek on this side, right here. They own this land here. And they've been doing all those developments. They're supposed to follow an environmental plan, but they don't. They haven't protected the creek. They've developed in the riparian zone hotels. They haven't managed the water runoff. They've failed. They need to stop the development right now. They want to do Osgood Drive next, along McMillan's Road. They want to clear all that. Where's the water management proposal for that? It's more of the same. We need to stop the development now. We need to call on a moratorium until they get it right. I mean, it's not a knee-jerk reaction we're after. We're slowing down the process. Thank you very much. The other responsible bodies in the upper catchment is the NT government. Minister Chandler, obviously we invited him here. His response is more consultation, but I guess Nick will talk about that. Chandler is Nero. He's playing the fiddle while this catchment burns. Thank you all for coming, and this is just the beginning. Questions?
If anyone's got questions, just raise your hand. I'll get a
live in Ludmilla. I came to Darwin first off over 32 years ago. At the moment, the people in Ludmilla North are fighting against a development in the McDonald's Bush block, which was, as I think Legs mentioned, was actually won by the Larrakia people off the government in the 1970s, but has somehow come up for lease for the Jake Group to make an inappropriate development. Does that sound similar to you? Okay, one of the things I've written is why I first came to Darwin and stayed here was because of the green space. Green space is great, I love green space. Okay, in America, 2009, a scientific paper was written, science suggests access to nature is essential to human health. In 2009 as well, in Holland, 1/3 of a million people were interviewed and the scientists came up with this fact. People who lived close to green spaces had less mental and physical problems than those who lived away from green spaces. As simple as that. As far as creeks go, I've been to a lot of countries all over the world. All the cities I've been to, all the creeks are poisoned, or they've spent millions and millions of dollars trying to clean them up. In Darwin, we are just at the beginning of poisoning our creeks for some reason. We don't understand how much it costs to get them back after they've been polluted. I would suggest that any inappropriate development in a catchment area, and this applies to our Ludmilla area as well as your area here in Rapid Creek, any inappropriate development will cause pollution to the creek. As you mentioned the petition, in Ludmilla we've been waiting over a year for a response from David Toner, who took our petition of 600 or so signatures to the government. We haven't heard anything back from them yet. In fact, the government seems to be very keen on listening to developers and not so keen on responding to the wishes of their electorate. I don't know why this is. Perhaps you might have some suggestions later on. Why is there so much development? I ask you that question. I'll be devil's advocate in asking you that question. Why do you people think there is so much sudden development in Darwin at the moment? How am I doing for time here? Minute and a half, okay. A couple of extra things, and these are important. Any development needs a traffic survey. The larger the development, the more problems that traffic will bring, or the development will bring to traffic in that area. This is something that's going to happen in Ludmilla. If there's a large development here, it will happen in Rapid Creek too. And the actual traffic and extra roads, access roads, will destroy more of your environment. The last thing, and perhaps in a way one of the most unpleasant things I can mention, is crime. I believe crime rate is slowly increasing, not only in Australia, but in Darwin and the Northern Territory. I think that inappropriate development creates more crime and more antisocial behaviour. I'd like to finish off. As a school teacher, I feel that we should provide a better, healthier, safer environment to kids in general for future generations. Thanks very much.
Are there any questions for David? Please raise your hands if anyone has any questions. If not, we'll just move on. Your name and
David, you got to answer the question.
get that real close to you.
David, I just wanted to get you to say, do you know anywhere on the internet where we could look at pictures of the bush block and show these people how over there's a little oasis as well, and how important greenness is?
Okay, there is a... we can actually hand out to people. I believe we've got some...
I didn't bring them today.
We haven't got that. Okay,
YouTube.
on the YouTube, there's certainly, if you want to see about consultation with the stakeholders, residents, interested parties, and the leaseholders and their lawyer and the government representative David Toner, why not go to www.freshwater, Fitzroy Drive community meeting on YouTube, and just you've only got to look for the first few minutes to see what consultation can become. As for, I don't know how many people here have put in submissions against the rezoning and subdivision at the Ludmilla bush block, but there will be the Development Consent Authority meeting when there will be a lot of extra photos available of what the bush block does look like, what they're going to remove, and there will also be photographs of what, shall we say, light industrial areas of sheds and showrooms can deteriorate to if no one's looking after them properly.
Obviously with my parents as a baby, and then moving to a council house in Jingley at Freshwater Road. So you can understand the significance that Rapid Creek has for me and my family. I spent every single holiday I had in that creek. I had the cultural significance of going through with my mother and my Aboriginal side of my family, going through and reinstating and just keep hammering into me the cultural significance of this stretch of land here, and you know how important that was, not only for me as somebody who has to protect this if I get the opportunity, but also to carry that on to my children. And I can tell everybody here that I take my children from 19 to my 12-year-old down to this creek on probably at least 2 or 3 times a month, and go through the same walks and the same significance, and actually say it's a great place to be, and if you get the opportunity, you need to make sure you fight so your children can also look after this place. My second part of my life is in 2012 I was a candidate for the NT election for the Australian Labor Party after the retirement of local member Chris Burns, and once one of the first things I did as a candidate, I went down and smashed the door down to the then Chief Minister Paul Henderson and said, "Mate, we've got to do something about Rapid Creek." And he said, "Why is it so important to you?" So I just went through the story of what I've just told everybody here. And he said, I respect that, and you're right, we've got to do something. And that's why we came out, and I stood beside him when we promised $2.5 million that was budgeted for works and protection of the Rapid Creek to do what we had to do. Yes, there was flooding, but we also had to make sure we looked after this corridor of such a significant place to a lot of people, not only in Darwin but around the world, because people have come here and people go around the world and they always remember Rapid Creek. So I was very, very proud. First of all, as a new bloke on that with a 6'6" Paul Henderson saying, "Yes, it's all yours, you can do it." And then sadly the CLP come out and said there's $1.5 million in the same election commitment. And then I was fortunate enough to be elected, went into Parliament, they did the first mini budget, and they said, "You know what, we're not going to give you $1.5 million, we're going to have $750,000 for a report." And I stood up in Parliament and said, "You've got to be bloody kidding me, haven't you?" And stood up and said, "What's that? We've just done a report that was released in 2012, and they did another $750,000 report that was released under the secrecy on, I think, the 23rd of December, which means they're trying to hide stuff." And that's why I continue to fight for the Rapid Creek. That's why I've been supporting where I can this cause, supporting Andrew and anybody else that wants to put their hand up. And I think it's a great thing that there's so many people here, and this creek means so much. You know, people might see, I'm going to give you a bell just a minute ago. You know, I never give a poly a microphone, you know that. But it was interesting to see every Saturday morning I try and catch up with my mum and my family at Casuarina to keep me level and on the ground, and just to make sure that my head's aren't in the cloud and I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And my mum said to me, "Whatever you do, go there, fight as hard as you can, and protect that place because it means so much to all of us here. People can come in and they can be politicians and they can leave, but we live here, you're born here, you'll die here, so protect it for your children and the children's children, and that's what I'll do.
My name's Margaret Clinch and I'm actually the convener of the Planning Action Network, and we've been operating for about 16 years, and we're an entirely voluntary group, and our purpose is to keep a balance in planning. Now you can see we haven't done a very good job, but we still keep working at it. All the money is on the other side, but we've had a long association with Rapid Creek. Years ago we did have a huge petition, and that was to provide a conservation corridor along the creek, 50 metres each side, fenced off for the purpose of keeping the conservation of the creek. That was supported by Chris Burns, who became the Labor member at that time, and we really sincerely believe that at the time of that election, Bolsh and Mitchell lost their seats because they were ignoring what the people wanted, and Chris Byrne had promised that he would provide the corridor, which was an amazing thing. It was a lot of work, it involved land acquisition, and that's why the creek has that corridor down near the Little Prink Bridge. It has that corridor right along the way to McMillan's Road. Now, so you can achieve things. A major problem I think with the creek is that most of it's flowing through the Commonwealth land, and the NT government seems to just walk away with anything to do with land that's in the airport area. However, the airport people are not totally, you can talk to them, and more talking we can do the better. They're up for a review of their management plan, which comes up every 5 years, so that's to be looked at again. There was better planning earlier, and further up in the catchment, round about Amy Johnson Drive, provision was made between Amy Johnson and the airport, provision was made to not actually develop that land, but to put in sporting fields and community facilities so that there wasn't a lot of heavy development there. That sort of planning is much better, but what we're having now is a whole lot of middle density residential being built all the way up to Bolter Road, which is up near the CSIRO. What I want to say is that you might think you're a bit alone, this group, but when we were doing our early petition, we used to collect petition signatures at the Fred's Pass show, and you'd be amazed the number of people from all over Darwin who love this creek, and they dearly love it, they have childhood memories, and they will fight for this creek too. So what we need to do is get the news out. Now, there's been a lot of funny activity in relation to the flooding. It's quite strange. There are survey plans. There are plans available on the internet, and if you look on the Rapid Creek Landcare Group's website, you'll find a lot of very detailed and correct information. Please do that, because nothing beats being well informed and knowing what you're talking about. Because the present government seems to be dedicated to no consultation. No consultation. In the current round of events, we've been told we're being consulted, we're being involved. Now, what we've just been told about the Minister saying that we're involved, there is a reign of silence. We know that people have actually been told not to tell Plan about what the government is doing with particular people who have been flooded. That's not going to help anything. It is just the wrong way to go. We've been promised by the Minister's advisor that we would have copies of the flood plans, and that's never happened. So people have just got to insist that they do have the right to know. Now, I think that the underlying thing is numbers. Don't go soft on it. Be loud, be volatile, and just show people that you have the numbers and we know what the numbers are for. They're for voting with. Thank you.
Lobbying hard, get the word out there, don't back off and give them hell, okay? Alright, we've got one more speaker today, same deal as the rest of the day. We've got 5 minutes. I'd like to welcome to the microphone from the NT Environment Centre, Stuart Blanche.
Thanks, Nick. Great to be here. Thanks, June. Well done to Legs and Save Rapid Creek for getting up in, a couple of months to getting a big turnout like this. And it's good to see Ken here. I think there's 7 key points. One is we have to protect trees. You know, trees are precious. They're free. They really slow down the water. They make our city cooler. They bring the wildlife in and they make it a beautiful place. It's easy to think trees are in the way of development, but developing trees actually is development. It keeps our city special. Because who lives here because Darwin is special? Yes. Protect the trees. And we have to protect the arteries. You know, if you get sick, you get a blood clot, you're in trouble. You need to protect the artery. And the artery of the catchment is the creek. You have to protect the creek, and that should be the principle. Every decision that's made is what does it do to the artery of our creek, because that is a very important ecological and cultural and aesthetic part of our catchment. Thirdly, we should learn from the Murray-Darling Basin. You protect your headwaters. You don't keep clearing the catchments. And what's happened in Bolter Road is a travesty. When people knew that this flooding was happening, that's still being approved, and the planning department still does not have a plan to stop land clearing around Amy Johnson Drive. Does anyone know that lovely bush block up at the Cyro site on the corner of Amy Johnson and McMillan's? You know, Cyro is being pushed to sell that to DHA to clear for housing. That should be the upper park of Rapid Creek Linear Park. That should be given to the people to manage as the headwaters of the creek and made open to a reserve. Who would like to see that? Yeah. Great. And I think we've now won. I think you should take a minute to clap yourself on the back, because no one will dare try to clear trees down here now. The Department of Infrastructure went out with their chainsaw ways and their hard hats and thought they could clear it, and that would make everything better and make Peter Chandler happy. Didn't work. Everyone jumped up. Those trees are safe now, and I think we've won that one. So that's why we need to protect what we've got. Secondly, we need to restore. Thankfully, we've got a large bit of vegetation on the defence lands, but no one can get there. Where we have large cleared areas, like just down here on the corner of Eaton Drive and or Charles Eaton and McMillan's, we need to replant those or dig retention basins, put wetlands there to store the water. Because you know what? People, I think, in Darwin Airport and council, sometimes they think water is the enemy. You've got to get rid of it. You've got to shut it down to someone else. But you know, when you do that, water is pollution. Water is our friend. You've got to hold on to water, sink it down. Water makes this creek and makes this catchment livable. Who likes being here during the dry when there's water in the creek? It's a refuge. Water is our friend, not our enemy. So we need to make our catchment permeable and slow it down. So thirdly, slow down. No more deep drains. That's the easiest and the dumbest thing to do, because it just puts the water onto somebody else's problem. Who here has been flooded along Ripper Creek? You know, when you're getting flooded, you think, why is this water in my lounge room? It shouldn't be. It should be in the creek. And we've allowed too much pushing water down and leaving it to be someone else's problem. And I'll get more to what we can do about that in the future. 4, the government and the landowners need to stop and listen. Stop pretending the thing to do is quickly promise the money or chop the trees down. It doesn't work. You know, there used to be a Rapid Creek Advisory Committee, got killed off by the government. Where are the community groups able to access all the information, not just the ones the government decide to release? When does Defence, Darwin Airport, City of Darwin, NT government sit around with Save Rapid Creek, Environment Centre, Rapid Creek Land Care Group, Larrakia Nation, Charles Darwin Uni? That's the sort of consultative forum we need to stop and listen rather than just saying, we know best, we're the technical people, or do we know how to do cement? They're causing the problem, they need to listen to the community. Fifthly, we need a catchment plan. You know, I was with the Department of Planning this week, they still actually know where the boundary is for the catchment. How can you manage a catchment if you don't know which way the water's going, this way or to Holmes Jungle or Ludmilla? We should all have a map on our fridge about where the catchment is so we know if we see someone with a pink sign up or a survey's peg in the catchment, stop. Listen to the community, what are they planning? I want a catchment plan for the whole catchment that we all have agreement on, not just the people who own the land telling us what the solution is, but a consensus-based plan. Sixthly, we need to prepare to litigate, because if the government doesn't listen, class action certainly gets their attention, and a nuisance action by residents whose homes are being flooded against the people who are causing water to get down onto their land more quickly, that will get their attention. And seventhly, if there's a word, we need to celebrate Rapid Creek. It's very hard for people to ignore you if you're celebrating a creek. I think this year we should have a Rapid Creek Festival.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Any quick questions for Stuart Glange? Years and generations to come. Thanks very much to the Save Rapid Creek movement, Andrew Arthur, for putting this thing together today. Thank you. Thank you very much to the Darwin International Airport Authority for allowing us to use the Aviation Institute. Thanks to the guys here at the Aviation Institute for putting up with us today. Thanks to No Culture for the t-shirts and the stickers. You guys are amazing. They get behind a lot of causes in Darwin. Thank you to the NT Police for providing the roadblocks so we can cross the road safely. And thank you to all the speakers today, everybody who's turned up, from all the different environment centres, from Parliament, from Council, everybody for showing up. And thank you to all of you for turning up and showing your support. This thing won't get off the ground without support. Let's get out and save Rapid Creek.